we need to keep our eyes on that could help women in worldwide weather the storm together. So here is the format to give you an idea of what to expect today. We will have one welcome speech and 4 panel sections, which will be shared by leaders from UN Women, BRICS Women Business Alliance, China Chamber of International Commerce, Digital Europe, NIT, South Asia, Visa, and others. I will kick off the conversation asking questions what draw out some of the high-level themes and trends we should be thinking about. But due to the time constraint, we will not be able to open up the floor for Q&A. Instead, you may reach out to us if you have any questions. And we have an AI translation service, so English will be translated into Chinese and shown in the left side. So let's get right into the first section, the opening remarks by Mr. Sun Xiao, Director General, Department of Multilateral Cooperation at China Chamber of International Commerce. Mr. Shen, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sam, for your introduction, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It is a great pleasure to address the opening of today's summit. At the outset, I would like to express my warmest gratitude on behalf of International Commerce, or in short, CCOIC, to welcome you all in the online world. CCOIC has 200 member enterprises, including major SOEs, national financial institutions, a large number of well-known private enterprises and foreign-funded companies, and we are the most influential business association in China. Some of you may be surprised we are a male-open summit, and many may claim that the men are the reason for gender inequality. However, I think we can be a part of the solution, and that is why I am very honored to be here to declare that men stand in solidarity with women to work out solutions for an equal world, particularly in this COVID-19 crisis. In recent years, I have seen a key technology which has made many changes in gender issues. For example, internet access, automation, and other digital tools have helped remove barriers for women pursuing educational opportunities, participating in the workplace, having their voices heard, and making their lives thrive. With technology, many women are contributing creativity and love, redefining and disrupting business. I welcome some of these innovators here today. Thank you for your activism to make a change. Please hold the world to account. We need your passion and conviction as we all face a huge challenge today. Dear friends, despite those progress we and technology made, women still need more training and access to technology solutions to boost their digital power. We cannot ignore that 40% of the world's population has no online access. We cannot ignore that 200 million more men than women have access to the internet, and women are 21% less likely to own a mobile phone. More importantly, the COVID-19 has deepened pre-existing inequalities, exposing vulnerabilities in social, political, and economic systems, which are in turn amplifying the impacts of the pandemic. Women are hit hardly the most, simply by virtue of their sex. Against this background, technology empowerment for women has never been more important or relevant. Therefore, the public and private sectors have been actively helping women with technology, for example, increasing supporting funds for them to sell products online. Some without access to these solutions are suffering. They're at risk. I think we all agree here that no one should be deprived of the technology for economic or social reasons. Thus, I believe today's topic It's quite prominent for government officials and business communities to share your voices, rethink the new normal, and give recommendations to all women to prepare well. Ladies, with the immense experience and expertise assembled here today, I'm confident that this event will facilitate a very constructive exchange and intelligence on how technology can help she navigate through the crisis. And the internet and the traditional tools will help your voice. We are together with you making a change. In closing, I wish to express my gratitude to all participants for their full cooperation and contributions to this summit. Thank you all. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Shen. Next, we will go to the first panel, Public and Private Collaboration Empower Women. We are honored to have three ladies, including Cecilia Bonafeldau, Director General of Digital Europe, Diane Wang, Founder and Chairperson of DHgate, Wang Qing, Program Officer, Gender and Climate Change at UN Women. So let's start with our first question. Cecilia, in your opinion, how have women been affected by the crisis, especially in Europe?
Thank you so much. And not least, thank you to Diane Wang also for inviting me for this panel. Maybe just starting to say, I was quite touched to hear how big differences there is between women and men in this crisis, even today in 2020. I think in Europe we have some really great women, as you have also in China, where we basically can see role models appearing. Ursula von der Leyen, Merkel, Vestager on digital, and of course also someone like myself standing out. And I think this is a part of the work, really showing role models. We see that many women, of course, are hit by the crisis harder than men, also in Europe. There is a divergence between the amount of women and men who are ICT specialists. This is one of the areas where we are missing the most people. And in fact, on the specialist, only 1.6% are actually women. This means that we are lacking millions of people and specialists with the ICT sector, but hardly any of them are actually women. I think from Digital Europe, we have done a lot for this, and we see a huge need for upskilling of women's competences towards the new job market, also in Europe. I think this is a global challenge, but this is definitely one of our main things. We have just sent out our investment strategy for the recovery plan, and two of the major topics are exactly the reskilling of the workforce, not least with a focus on women, so we can see that they can enter into the new job market after the crisis.
Okay, thank you, Cecilia. And Wang Qing, on behalf of UN Women, could you please introduce UN Women's mandate and works in China, please?
Thank you, Sam. And first of all, thank you very much to invite me, and it's very a great opportunity for me to be here and also learn from every guest and audience here today. So UN Women is an UN entity dedicated to gender equality and women's empowerment. Globally, UN Women provides normative support to the UN member states, to UN state members to help them setting up standards, laws, and policies to achieve gender equality, and as well as ensuring those standards, laws, and policies are effectively implemented. Apart from that, UN Women also provides technical and financial assistance through its programs for gender equality and women's empowerment. Also, UN Women bears the mandate of promoting gender equality within the entire UN system and mainstreaming gender equality into daily work and the projects. Our office, our China office, has been working in China since 1998. We have been working closely with governments from all levels, non-government organizations, other UN agencies, academia, and to advance gender equality. Our office has three major project pillars. The first one is ending violence against the women and girls. And the second one is women economic empowerment, which is so far the largest program of our office and also area I have been working for. And the third one is China Fund, which is a small fundraising to grassroots projects and also the gender-related studies. And of course, part of the projects we have also been doing a lot of normative support to government, advocacy, and partnership. And talking about the public and private collaboration, Your Women serves not only a platform to bring resources together to facilitate the dialogues among different partners, have been working on mainstreaming gender into those dialogues.
Thank you, Qing. Diane, I know you are from e-commerce industry. Could you please share how the e-commerce landscape has transformed in the past few months by the pandemic?
Okay, thank you, Sam. Indeed, the crisis has accelerated the expansion of e-commerce and digitalizations of traditional offline businesses. And it provides customers with access to the significant variety of products with convenient and safe way. It also enables suppliers and offline merchants with online channels to maintain their operation despite the contact restrictions. Take China's e-commerce as an example. In the first 3 quarters this year, according to China customers data, the sales volume through cross-border e-commerce increased 50%. But the general foreign trade only rose less than 1%. So during the crisis, we found those companies with access to e-commerce and digitalizations can be able to survive and thrive. For example, the sellers and partners in our platform that they actively deployed digital tools to sustain their growth through the key business functions. We found that they have leveraged the social marketing, social media, such as live streaming to generate traffic, AI and big data to adjust product portfolios based on the emerging consumer needs. And AI company also help the logistic company that they can apply the big data to digitally manage their traffic capacity. And we also worked with banks to lend microloan financing through the online channels to SMEs in a second based on fintech. In results, our seller sales increased over 40% in the first 9 months. But the companies without digitalization have been suffering harder, as Cecilia mentioned at this point as well. They're at a crossroads. The choices we're going to make today will have consequences on gender equality, on digital equality, and inclusive growth for decades to come. Sam.
Thank you, Diane. All of you mentioned the support for women. So back to Cecilia. Could you please introduce how your organization promotes public and private collaboration in digital transformation for women?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. And I'm totally in line with Diane. It's amazing to see what Platform has actually done for the resilience of companies and how we can see that digital companies are basically more resilient during crisis than others. It's really something that we need to take note of and also work with in the digital transformation. Digital Europe has done several things. First of all, we have signed the declaration of the European Commission for equality and for basically working in private-public partnership to advance women into the digital era. And concretely, we are running a few quite large projects of reskilling women into digital skills. We have something called Women for IT. 700 women are being reskilled and making sure that they have the skills of the future, going from traditional women positions into the digital era really well prepared for top jobs. This is also something what we are seeing on national level. For example, one of our members called ITB, they are reskilling, or they are actually skilling together with companies and governments and teachers association. They are giving for free training to schools, 3 years of coding, something called the coding classes, where the companies design some projects on innovation, for example, invent application for recycling of plastic, and they give it to the school children, and they give the teachers to teach coding, and these children comes out with free full years of education of coding into innovative areas like greening the environment, health solutions, transportation solutions. So now 10,000 children, for example, in Denmark have had this coding classes. We also see another initiative in Belgium that we are actually trying to boost for the whole of Europe, where we can forecast the job disruption also for women and see what are the jobs that are disappearing and what will be the future job. We are using AI to do that. And this is exactly what we hope to do. So women can also see themselves stepping into the digital era, not being left behind, but see a clear path towards the future jobs. And then, of course, internally in Digital Europe, we are quite proud to have a female DG, which is me, but also a female president. And we have 50-50 women and men on our board and in our management. It starts with also being a role model and walk the talk to show that we have highly professional, very well-skilled women in the ICT sector also.
Thank you. And Diane, get back to you. Cecilia mentioned the coding classes for the children. And also you mentioned digitalization's importance to women in Asia as well. So could you please let us know how women can benefit from digital transformation in this crisis?
Okay, so firstly, I would like to congratulate Cecilia, the big progress you've achieved in the Digital Europe. Go back to Sam. We have no doubt that many women have more and more understanding about the importance of digital transformation. However, we found them are facing many challenges along the way, especially on digital skills. Although digitalization provides everyone with equal competition and the mature technology, tools, and services available in the market, accessing to the skills is the key problem. I still remember a voice from a woman farmer in Haiti. She said, "I've heard a lot about the world, digital platform, but I never really knew what it meant and what it looked like." So for example, they often ask how to sell online, how to use live streaming, how to generate online traffic, and how to access microfinancing, etc. These are the common questions for all. They are more fragile and experiencing problems accessing technology, skills, and finance. And during the crisis, according to the UN, business owned by women are particularly impacted by the digital divide and are lagging behind. So I totally agree with Cecilia mentioned about this as well. We must change this. As also Qing mentioned earlier, helping everyone with digital transformation is not an easy job. It requires a strong collaboration between the public and the private sectors. We need to fully utilize our role and unite all stakeholders, including business sectors, business leaders, government officials together. And we also need to work together with multilateral organizations, including UN, WTO, WHO, B20, APEC, etc., to help all stakeholders to navigate the storm. We must share our knowledge, best practices, capacities wherever resources. In the digital transformation with those women without digital skills, and prepare for the new norm. Sam.
Thank you, Diane. And let's back to Wang Ting. You and women also launched a series of initiatives. For example, helping rural women farmers in Qinghai in China. So could you please introduce the further details to us, and how do you leverage digital tools to help those women farmers over there? Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. And also thanks Cecilia and Dan for your introduction of your great results from your work. Actually, I've been inspired a lot, and I want to add that actually Young Women has been calling for women's leadership as well as women's participation in scientific and IT industry. So on that we are all together. And Young Women have China office, we have established a gender and climate change project, which is the project I'm working on since 2018. We are working in Qinghai, 7 counties in Qinghai province, trying to support the rural women from there to get access to those kind of technologies and market information, market access, and also to diversify their income resources so that they can stay stronger and be resilient in front of the natural disasters, including the COVID-19 pandemic. So far in our project, we have provided trainings to over 55,000 of women, and in the meantime we have been supporting 6 pilot villages where the women, local women has been leading the agriculture and non-agriculture businesses. So when people are actually thinking about a rural area and thinking about agriculture, we barely link it with the technology. But actually in our project, we have found that actually technology plays very key roles in rural women's economic empowerment. I'll share a small story from my project. There is one lady, she has a family pig farm. And normally her way of doing business is to sell the pigs and pork through offline to the local markets. But in this way, there have always been a lot of competitors in the same market. And the customers have been always bargaining for lower price, so which will hurt her income in certain way. And under certain conditions, she will even receive big money. So through our project, we actually provide technical training to teach her how to use e-commerce platforms to do the online businesses. And she posted her profile, set up her profile in Kuaishou app, and actually she posts her short videos of the pigs in her family farm. And by doing this, it helps her to get the customer orders even from Jiangsu province. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, due to the lockdown and also the social distancing measures, offline businesses actually was affected quite a lot. But because of her has been doing online business, her online business was not hurt that much at all. She even managed to sell 46 pigs in this March, and that gives her 50,000 RMB income, which is quite a lot in the rural areas. So that's digital technology and how it can support the rural woman's life. But that is not the end of the story. In many projects and cases, we have found that when women are generating income, they tend to build up the awareness of contributing to her community. So this lady who sells pigs, she during her COVID-19, she actually voluntarily signed up to be a member of the management team. She stays in the frontier line of like protecting her village and her like neighbors. So in this way, I want to highlight that first, technology really can do a great positive impact to support rural women's lives. And the second, we cannot leave rural women behind in the development of the technology. Thank you.
Thank you all. All of the ladies just now mentioned, for example, the coding class and technology, e-commerce, as well as other apps to help women. So I believe our audience for the whole world is looking for best practices, advice, and recommendations from your ladies. So Diane, could you please introduce how you promote women empowerment through digitalization and share some studies with our audience here?
Okay, so firstly, thank you, Qing, for your story sharing. I think that's very encouraging. I'm a strong believer that a digital age is the golden age for women, offering more opportunities for women to level the playing field and for more robust participation of women for all industries. The entry barrier of digitalization has been dramatically lowered, given the mature of technology, tools, and services in the market. Everyone can simply use them, even sitting in the living room. In our platform, more than 45% of MISMEs are owned by women. We have applied AI, big data, and e-financing technologies to help their business so they can outperform the market during the crisis. For example, in this pandemic, we set up a new service to serve a new form of e-commerce we call decentralized e-commerce, driven by social distancing, social media, and live streaming. Sellers no longer distribute their products in single one e-commerce platform. Instead, they can utilize multiple private domain channels, such as social media, social community, and live streaming to sell products to end customers. Every channel is form of decentralized e-commerce nowadays. So for example, I would also like to share one story. Maria, a Texas-based Zumba instructor, quarantined and lost her income due to the virus. But she's been able to survive through decentralized e-commerce. She's introduced Zumba leggings and tops from our SaaS platform to her fans in Facebook group. And once her fans place orders through her channel, we would help her to drop ship to her customers. And she can earn money from selling those products, leveraging her private online community. She doesn't need to understand the policy, trade policies, logistics, or online operation. She can just focusing on Zumba skills and managing her network. This simple business model has enabled everyone to access international trade equally and boosted the international trade to the next level. We also launched a campaign for global women recently, the Women Connect, Her Power Entrepreneurship Competition. This event aims to recognize outstanding female entrepreneurs around the world. Participants that they can share their stories, their experiences, especially learn from each other, particularly in the e-commerce skills. So I would like to invite all of you to join this event as well, telling your experiences, sharing your success, and building the new world to connect all women together. Sam.
Okay, thank you. So let's back to Qing. You just mentioned about the support for women farmers. And we know that UN Women produced a report with the agriculture organization Food and Agriculture Organization on the impact of digital technology on rural women farmers. Could you share what are the findings from the report? And do you have any recommendations you can share, give to women to mitigate the crisis?
Thank you, Sam. And based on what's being shared by Dan, actually, UN Women China office in this year, working together with FAO and RC office, we have conducted a research on how digital technologies, especially the e-commerce and digital financing, could affect it, that both technologies are with great positive impact on women's development in terms of generating more income or getting access to solid capital resources to keep sustainable businesses. However, we found that there is a digital gender dive in rural China, which means rural women are disadvantaged in terms of benefiting from digital technologies. Some women have no bank accounts at all, and many don't know how to use internet, even cell phone properly. When rural women farmers want to establish their own business, they largely are facing
It seems that we lost Qing's signal. So let's back to Cecilia. What's your recommendations for sister to mitigate the crisis?
So we'd say on a societal level, this is all about reskilling. We know that 52% of the workforce before the crisis needed to be reskilled in the next 5 years. Really setting a high target, collaborating closely with public and private sector to make sure that we reskill both the individuals, of course, of each sector towards the future job, but really also the companies, leveraging and teaching, the SMEs and the women-owned businesses how to go online, how to use online tools exactly like Diane described before, to go online and become more resilient. And on an individual level, I would always say, think about two things when you do your business. Think about scale. For women, access to the internet connectivity platforms gives this opportunity of actually doing innovations that can be seen and grow worldwide, not only within your country. So think about scale. Don't be too modest. Don't think small. Do what you really love and try to think about who else in the world can you basically take this service to. So women don't always get limited by having children, a lot of work in the house, but actually leveraging their time to a maximum and using online tools for their businesses. And then the second, so scale is one and skills is the other one. Make sure that you teach your daughters about the opportunities of digital, that coding is something that will be needed, the only universal language we have in the world, and that online purchasing and sales will be an opportunity for their future. Be sure that you tell them and that you give them the necessary knowledge and skills basically to do this themselves in their life.
Thank you, Cecilia. And let's back to Qing. I think we connect again. So Qing, could you please continue your recommendations here?
Qing, can you unmute?
Yeah. Thank you. Very sorry for the unstable internet connection. It feels like the digital technology is not always on our side. So I'll keep on my suggestions. Actually, my suggestions compared with suggestions to women, my suggestions would more to the government, to the civil society, and even to men, that we should come together and build up a comprehensive support system to help those who are more vulnerable in many aspects. Relevant gender responsive policies should be established and well implemented, and more more engaged in building up an enabling environment to support women. My recommendations to large enterprises like our distinguished guests are from, we should, as women in the working place, be allies to our vulnerable sisters and support them to the largest extent that we can do, from CSR projects or to personal contribution. And UN Women also welcome more companies to sign up our women's empowerment principles to become our partners in gender equality. My recommendation to women would be staying together to support each other, keeping up lifelong learning to improve ourselves, and sitting in front of the negotiation table. Women cannot be left behind by the technology development, and we cannot let that happen. Last but not least, UN Women is very much willing to work together with partners who are interested in supporting gender equality through varieties of projects and initiatives to benefit more women and girls in China and globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia, Qing, and Diane. Next one, we are going to have women entrepreneurs survive and thrive in the crisis. We will have women leaders from different sectors, including Jasmine Liu, Chief Compliance Officer at NIT in Hong Kong, Michelle Curry, founder and CEO at Topca Global in Australia, Su Chen Harris Simpson, founder and CEO at South Asia in Beijing. Let's start with our first question. Michelle, could you please share the latest situation for women and women-led companies in Australia with us?
Yeah, hi, Sam. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this fantastic summit, and obviously to the sponsors and the esteemed co-panelists. It's truly great to be here and so far hear the perspectives. So my focus is really on micro, small enterprises, women who lead businesses that are typically cash reliant and where there's little to no digitization, access to digital capabilities, which means that they're excluded from global value chains, and it also means that they're excluded from the opportunities to participate in more expansive trade opportunities that the globalized context of world commerce should open up to them. So looking at the question, Sam, specifically in terms of how has this impacted women in general? Well, obviously around the world we've seen great impacts in terms of women and girls in particular having lower access to really vital and intergenerational beneficial services in forms of education, access to health, access to anti and neonatal services. Because women don't have access generally to savings and insurance, it's really meant that the livelihoods of their families have been hugely compromised. And we're talking, when we look at the informal sector, we're talking 12% of the global population. We're talking 1 billion women. These are, incredible numbers when we think that in 2020 we still have that extent of exclusion and that extent of vulnerability, and we really need to look at how to get better, I think, at not just identifying problems, but actually the implementation thrust that needs to accompany at scale the right kinds of responses. Obviously, we've also seen a real surge in the shadow pandemics, and these typically have been, very, very gendered. For women in business, some of the statistics say that women have dropped their levels of income pre-COVID by at least 60%. And so for poorer women, and particularly women, more vulnerable women in the informal economy, that means that we've seen a regression globally to incomes of less than $2 a day. And so we've sort of regressed hugely on some of those big poverty alleviation targets. And women who have reported since March, and I'm sort of focusing more on Asia at the moment, that they've had zero income generated by their businesses. And so the on-flow impacts of all of this is obviously huge. I am really clear, as so many of the co-panelists here have been, that digitalization, participation in digital transformation is vital if we are to build better, resilient businesses for women, help them create more income growth, help them create more expansive opportunities, not just to do more in the businesses that they have defined for themselves today, but in the new opportunities that will emerge post-COVID, and how we connect them to these new types of markets. Sam.
Thank you, Michelle. Let's go to Sue Chen. So could you please share your view on how women and women-led companies are affected by the crisis?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here today. As an entrepreneur that's been working in China with my own business for over 15 years, I realized that COVID really did, in many ways, personally, greatly impact our business, because one of our part of our business is events. And well, there was no events starting from February onwards. So it really did completely shut us down. Now, with that said, the good news is that we have other part of our company, which is in the area of consulting, helping to empower women. That has really, in so many ways, taken off. So there is like silver lining in everything, as I like to see it. And as an entrepreneur, I think many of us can agree we're pretty darn resilient. With that said, though, I think early on, for me, it was really difficult in understanding how to pivot and how to quickly, gravel with the idea of digital and the Zooms and all that stuff, which we all had to do. But I think I wanted to bring the idea back to the double burden. Now, what I saw as an entrepreneur here on ground was that many of the women entrepreneurs that I was talking to, what we found was that there was an immense underlying pressure for all of us to actually just survive. And many of us, in many ways, due to digital pivoting, were able to do so. But I think what it is that the double burden of having if you're a mother who has children that are staying at home, and in addition having to work, that's really been I think the stress of it for many of us women as mothers and daughters and so forth. Family obligations become even more so critical, especially during COVID, because we're very, very worried about the health of our families, of our colleagues. But as entrepreneurs, I want to call it as the triple, quadruple burden, because in addition to having our families and work, on top of that, trying to, even survive our companies has been a tremendously stressful. And so I say with that when we talk about how did it impact you, well, personally, I have to say it completely really made it quite difficult to survive. But the good news, like I said, is that I think most women that I've seen now that we're into 8 months of this, 9 months of this, that we have been able to pivot, and via technology, via the digital divide and so forth, been able to work on it. And that's been very helpful for us to also connect. But in reality, I think the double burden, the triple burden to me is something that really that we as entrepreneurs need to be very, very aware of. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue Chen. And let's go to Jasmine. As a fintech and banking veteran, as well as an entrepreneur, how has the crisis impacted you and particularly women entrepreneurs? And how has the crisis affected women entrepreneurs differently from men, if any?
Thanks for inviting me to the panel first. I think, first of all, I feel very grateful that I'm not overly impacted by this crisis. I even set up my own well-being business during this period. So I guess, but I know that some working women, in particular with young kids, they are considering stepping back or away from their job because of this crisis. On the bright side, I think opportunities are still there. So it could be driving more and more women to become an entrepreneur. So that's why it's one of the reasons why I set up my own well-being business. I also noticed that while I haven't seen the actual data on women entrepreneur, my assumption is that the situations may be very tough for them. As they need to struggle between increasing pressure from working from home, dealing with family, and also manage their own business at the same time. So that's how I see the pressure come to women entrepreneur. And to your questions on how does it affect women entrepreneur leaders than men, I think it really depending on the support from your company and your family, right? Because the support from company and family is super important. In general, I think women entrepreneur or leaders got more barriers than men. And from the company's point of view, I think women leaders in general have a very meaningful impact on a company's culture to promote gender and racial equality. So if you give more empathy and understanding among employees, I think definitely it can promote a culture of diversity and equal opportunity, and you will have a more happy employee, and that's how I see it. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Jasmine. And here is the common questions for all of you. So what technologies, services, or initiative your company has engaged in helping women? Su Chen, could you please share yours?
Yes, as I mentioned, I was blessed to be actually during COVID early on here in Chinese New Year's to be in Phuket. And with that has given me an opportunity to kind of step back and think about how to pivot the business and so forth. And as I am at that time been able to communicate with people, friends and other women entrepreneurs and so forth here on ground, what I realized was that what was missing was really the connection, obviously, with the lockdown and so forth. So right away, what we were able to do was, thank goodness, I think Zoom stock price went straight up just because many of us then figured out that we can connect and need to have the connection. So we were able to start an initiative where we invited men and women leaders, executive leaders from companies to speak and to share with their people, their members, their staff and so forth, what is happening, how they're feeling. I think this is a special moment in the sense that when we can talk about mental health feelings openly and be accepted without any kind of flashback in that sense, pushback. So I say we were able to have Zoom calls on a monthly basis that would enable us to really connect and have leaders share their resilient stories and to say that it's okay that your kids are running around in the back and calling mommy and so forth, and everybody is there to really support you and say as a leader that I'm going through exactly what you're going through. So with that, we were able to have that as initiative. Then we realized that, that was enough. It wasn't enough. So we started and created a small group coaching where we were able to get some coaches that volunteered their time to come together and support 3 to 4 women in a small group environment where they can open up and share their their anxieties. I think all of us had anxiety during that time, and it was difficult to be able to express them. So we were able to right away establish some groups and have coaches coach them, and it was very well received. And of course, we were already on the en route to having a girls in STEM program, but due to COVID, it was hard to start, but we're definitely going to be looking at that. And in addition, everybody's kind of thinking the same way. We're also starting the first Women Empowerment Awards in China, where we have 10 of our corporate members that will be initiating. We started that. We just had a Women's Economy Summit in conjunction with AmCham a couple of weeks ago. And with that, we have members of very enlightened, very wonderful companies that are on this journey of empowering women together. And we have like BP, Charara, Coca-Cola, Dow, ExxonMobil, HPE, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, Mars, and Microsoft, and of course, SEHS Asia. The reason I want to mention those companies is because it's really important, as earlier session was saying about private public partnership. You know, these companies have the resources and they need good employees, and 50% of the women are employable and they have the opportunity to do this, but we need the companies to be able to support them. So we were able to then have initiate many of these initiative programs that allow to support their women, encourage the women, and to really offer them an opportunity to continue on the path of growth and in leadership roles. So the one other thing that I want to mention that was earlier one is about supplier diversity. I really believe, as we're talking about women entrepreneurs, as a women entrepreneurs, we started the supplier diversity here in China. Our company did about 9 years ago working with WeConnect. And I so believe that because it is really about scaling and growth. As a woman entrepreneur, when you're able to actually connect to a to a Walmart, to Microsoft, that is when you exponentially can grow. And so I really believe that one is that we need to keep talking to companies as entrepreneurs and supporting each other to be in their supply chain. And more importantly, and I love how, we have purchasing power and we don't use it. So as women, we also need to think about buying from women. And I know, there's ways that you can find out who owns and so forth companies. And I love that Diane said that 45% of the online platform that you guys have are women. And so there's got to be a way to showcase that, because I know that I will absolutely go to a woman supplier just to know their story and buy from them. So I think those are initiatives and things that we can keep in mind. Thank you, Sam.
Wow, very exciting. I would like to buy from the women as well. So back to Michelle. Could you please introduce your tech for women, please?
Thanks, Sam. So actually the TOCA solution for micro small enterprises was incubated before COVID-19. And we were, I guess in some ways, in the very fortunate position that COVID-19 has created an impetus around our solution. And in other ways, it's introduced new problems for us in that, things like capital dried up. And so, our ability to scale as fast as we wanted to was somewhat impeded. But what we identified was that across Asia, focusing on that as our sort of first go-to-market region, is that there are more than 300 million, probably more than 500 million micro small enterprises who, as I mentioned earlier, are cash reliant and non-digitized. So a massive market segment. And what we identified through our own research was that part of the challenge of uptake lies in the fact that many of the digital solutions that are out there are very, very hard for these digitally less savvy people to reach and to understand. And so what we did is we looked at what a business needs to be able to operate in a light kind of digital way. And we brought that together in the concept of a super app, so that someone who has less sort of tech savvy can basically do a business in a box in a very light way through this one app. So it includes the back office operational capabilities to enable the procure to pay backbone. It enables their front-end marketing and sales capabilities, which links them ultimately into obviously e-commerce platforms once they become part of this digital ecosystem, and it also includes access to digital financial services. And answering the question specifically, looking at women, we did apply a fairly large amount of scrutiny on how women use technology services. And so we've just, in the process, in partnership with ABAC Brunei, doing a market test of the Bimpiaga sub-region of ASEAN. And what that told us was that women are very domestically constrained, very village constrained in terms of their operations. So they don't have access to large numbers of suppliers, as Su Chen was just mentioning. In fact, most of the women had access to no more than 2. They don't have access to the ability to really enter into more sophisticated supply chain and logistics, because the constraint of being cash reliant forces them to have very localized customer bases and modes of operation. So packaging this together in the super app and looking at it from the perspective of women, we identified 3 key things. One is that women are very convenience focused. They are very, very cost efficient, very cost focused, and they are also very, very time poor. And so anything that was going to encourage them to move away from their more comfortable and traditional modes of doing business into the digital realm was going to have to be a value proposition to them that addressed those things. And so that's what we looked at, and that's what we did. The other, and so, sorry, just to elaborate on that, the convenience factor, having it all in the one super app, we did a lot of work on our pricing models to understand how women like to buy, the decisions that they're able to make around spending, how they sort of smooth their spending in terms of their business and their family, and came up with pricing models and affordable pricing models that they could, that they had appetite to sort of partake in. And then around time saving was obviously embedded in the ability of the app to reduce a lot of the manual intensity of their operations and introduce much more flexibility for them in their daily work life. The other thing was around trust, and that women like to network. They build trust through collaborations with other women groups, and that the the propensity of sort of the digital age to be very individualistic in many ways in terms of fintech, etc., didn't reinforce a lot of women's behaviours in terms of how they like to learn about and adopt new services. So we built in very rich networking capabilities, the ability to do a lot of sharing, group savings and things like that. So it just basically was true digitization as opposed to transformation in some senses, in that we moved what they do today, but we actually deliver it via a digital means. But it means that they are more likely to want to use it. And we want the women to think about how they behave in a local village and how that might translate to concepts of global villages in the way that they do more globalized business. And so building in these sorts of network capabilities, to Su Chen's point, the ability to actually support other women, engage with other women and create these virtual communities was quite important. But the key incentive for us was to tell women that this was not about them spending money on digitization for its sake, or on financial services where very low levels of money meant that why do I need these sorts of rich services that come at quite a lot of cost if I don't earn a lot of money? So we really focused on their ability to generate income and expand their income opportunities, build far more resiliency into their income channels, and showcased that to them. So we have actually produced a paper called Womenpreneurs that goes into sort of all of this in quite a lot of detail. But that's how we went about being able to really respond to women's specific needs in terms of the digitisation challenge and building post-COVID resiliency.
Okay, thank you. Jasmine, please tell us how your company is working to empower women, please.
So for us, right, we are quite lucky to be in our company, appreciate diversity with cross-cultural background. We got quite a bit of female leaders in the team, and because we see the importance of inclusion and diversity, and we believe that small changes can have a very large impact to the company. Diversity management and career support and mentorship to the team member is crucial. And we do have a very diverse team initiative for women mentoring and right people, right seats. And also on top of that, because of this crisis, right, we care for the well-being of the team, and we try to call the polls to check on the well-being of the team member, and also we carry out physical training to the team member as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
We're getting close to the end. So here is another common question for all the three ladies. So what recommendations can you give to female entrepreneurs and other women in the business sector? Su-Chen, could you please start first?
Well, kind of going back full circle from my beginning is really about being aware of oneself. I mean, as I had the, really the blessing to be able to take the time during COVID and really look at where I want to do as an entrepreneur and how I wanted to continue. And so as a company who's really about supporting women in the diversity inclusion area and so forth, I feel like we as women need to support each other. That is the most important thing. As an entrepreneur, as Michelle was saying, that there's so many ways that we can work with each other. And this is even more critical, important to support each other, buying from each other, helping each other. Okay? So, and actually celebrating. I think in this time of difficulty, we forget sometimes to laugh and to have joy and to be grateful. I know I'm kind of coming from this area of hope because I think that's what it's all about sometimes, is the resiliency of entrepreneurship and so forth. So that way. So I think it's wonderful that, Diane, they have the awards and so forth. So I invite all of you that we have, this special awards, Empowering Women Awards in China. This is the first time. And so the more that we can help promote each other, the help and recognize each other and celebrate with each other would be great. So if anybody's interested in that, please let us know. So the one thing that I also believe is when I talk about the triple burden is we feel the urgency to constantly be pushing ourselves and moving ourselves and grow. I think really taking the time for ourselves is real, and taking care of ourselves. And somebody just mentioned, well, what does that mean, taking care of yourself? I think about it, well, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. All of these things makes up who we are. And so I really believe that it's really important that if we take care of us, then we're better at taking care of our families, our communities, our businesses, and so forth. So I encourage, start with yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. And Michelle, before we are going to celebrate with Su-Chen later, so what's your recommendation for other women?
So, I mean, obviously, I'm a middle-class Western woman who had the benefit of education and access to all sorts of opportunities. And so it's very difficult for me to pretend, even though I've spent a lot of time working with these types of women, what it is to be an entrepreneur and also confront the daily challenge of just surviving and just having enough to get by this week or just today. And so when we ask these women to embrace digitization or new ways of working or whatever, it's like one more thing. It's one more thing. And so the story for them has to really start to emphasize that before COVID-19 for sure, but definitely since COVID-19, these traditional ways of working are just not sustainable. There will be future pandemics, future shock events, and they have to build more resilient businesses. And until they do, they are going to continue on this very, very fragile trajectory, which is not good for them, and it's not good for their children, and it's not good for intergenerational hope. And so, my advice is that they just have to take the first step. They have to enter the digital age in whatever way that can be possible for them. Even with the infrastructure challenges, there are capabilities, there is ways that they can start to participate in digital transactions and digital commerce and build the building blocks of far greater resiliency. So that would be my advice, is that, overcome fear, overcome trust issues, and just realize that, these are some vital steps. You don't have to do it all at once. Take each step as it comes and test it out, but take that step. Today for your business, for what it is today, but also unless you do it, there won't be those opportunities available to you tomorrow in a changing industries, in changing markets, and in changing innovations and opportunities. So easy for me to say perhaps, but we have to find the ways to communicate those stories and to do it in a way where we demonstrate value add to the women in terms of how they sort of build their futures for their families.
Thank you. And Jasmine, what's your recommendation?
I think at different stage of life, right, we got different goals. So stay motivated and keep our curiosity of picking up new things. And also, if we want to be an entrepreneur, right, just take initiative to access to the right network and develop your capacity to grow. And I totally agree with Sue. Spend more time with yourself, as I think well-being is so important nowadays. And do something you like.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jasmine, Michelle, and Shu Chen. Let's celebrate after this event. Okay, next one, we are going to have our section on technologies empowers women in the crisis. We will have Betty Yao, Head of Marketing at My Shop in China, Pindley Spaces, Executive Member of BRICS Women Business Alliance, and Director of Shared Interest Investments in South Africa. Wendy Wang, Chief Marketing Officer at Thai FinTech, 2 days ago in Thailand. So let's start with our first question. Pindley, as the voices of BRICS Women Business Alliance in South Africa, could you please introduce the latest landscape of women affected by the crisis in your country?
Thank you, Sam, and thank you to you and Diane for extending the invite to the South African chapter of the Women Business Alliance. In South Africa, we have a situation where 3 million jobs have been lost due to the pandemic and also the lockdown that restrictions that came with trying to manage and curb the spread of the pandemic. Of these 3 million jobs, 2 million were jobs that were held by women. So again, we see the women taking the biggest brunt of the pandemic. The pandemic has unveiled the crippling inequalities that exist in the African society, where women do not have equal opportunities to participate in the economy and to participate in any other opportunities that come up. We have now moved to a lesser restrictive point of the lockdown, where the economy is now starting to reactivate and women are going back to work. Informal businesses are beginning to trade, and women businesses are again starting over and rebuilding. There are challenges in this state of the lockdown. One being the working women are facing a dilemma where childcare facilities have not reopened, and so they do not have a place to leave their children when they go to work. There is a challenge that the extended family that has provided help when there are no facilities to take children to are also not available, because grandparents are the most vulnerable during this time. So they are trying to keep in isolation as much as possible. So this is a dilemma of the working woman in this new South African working environment. The informal sector also presents a challenge for the women in this sector, which are the majority, by the way, because they now have to refinance the working capital of their businesses. And the challenge again being they had to use all their reserves to survive as families during the lockdown period. And the same applies to women that are running businesses. In order to keep their businesses alive during the lockdown, they had to dig into their reserves and pay their fixed costs and keep the minimal number of staff that they needed to keep. Now that the economy is picking up, they need to have access to working capital. But because their balance sheet have been eroded during the period of lockdown, it is becoming more and more difficult to access that working capital. And lastly, there is a need, whether you like it or not as a business, to move into the digital space. And this presents an opportunity and a challenge as well for the women. It presents an opportunity because they can access new markets. It presents a challenge that they now need to invest in new infrastructure. They now need to have access to data so that they can be able to assess the needs of their clients. And in doing so, there is also a challenge of the general infrastructure to support the digital economy. Data is expensive. Some areas do not have infrastructure so that they can just access the internet. And this is the current situation that we are facing. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. And let's go back to Asia. So Wendy, could you please introduce the latest situation of women in Thailand? Wendy, the floor is yours.
Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for DHgate to give me this opportunity to attend this discussion. My name is Wendy and I come from China. I have 10 years of working experience of e-commerce, including 7 years in JD.com. And I have been working in Thailand for 3 years. Now I am quarantined in the hotel because I just fly from Bangkok to Guangzhou. Okay, before COVID-19, Thailand was one of the happiest countries in the world because its unemployment rate and inflation rate were less than 1%. However, due to the impact of global pandemic, Thailand's export and tourism industry declined sharply. It is estimated that the unemployment rate will increase from 1% to 3% in 2020. So far as we know, Thailand has a total population of 69 million and a working population of 13.8 million. Women are 51% of the population. As I mentioned before, COVID-19 outbreak has the greatest impact on Thailand's tourism and service industry. And women are the main force in this industry. So more women will lose their jobs in Thailand. As a rough estimate, over 600,000 women will be unemployed in Thailand this year. So this is a really tough time for women in Thailand. Okay.
Thank you. Let's go to China. So Betty, I think your company introduced a new service for the changing environment by the pandemic. So tell us what technologies your company has engaged in helping women and SME companies to mitigate the difficulties. Betty, the floor is yours.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can hear you. Please.
So my shop actually is a software as a service, a SaaS-based platform that we launched with an aim to revolutionize the global online e-commerce business, B2B e-commerce business. So incubated by DHgate, my shop takes advantage of the data experience and resources and addresses the industry pain points through providing whole set of business and tools and services to help global distributors, wholesalers, and private domain traffic monetizers to serve end customers efficiently. As most countries are still being affected by COVID at this moment, many people have to stay at home and a lot of them even lose their job. So my shop makes it super easy for e-commerce players to find products, add them to their My Shop store, website, Shopify, eBay, or any other e-commerce marketplace, and ship them just directly to their required needs. So since without upfront cost of the products, anybody could start their business with small capital investments. This is particularly a good choice for women or micro, small enterprises, which may not have sufficient money for running business. Another big challenge for women or micro, small enterprises doing e-commerce business is that they're short of hands. So my shop takes care of everything from product supply, packaging, delivery to after sales so that our customers will be focused more on operation and customer relationship management. So we make sure we are bringing the products with both high quality and competitive prices, and that they are with the fastest possible delivery from our local warehouses across the globe. And that, so with big data and a proprietary algorithm, we also provide smart product recommendation service to help them identify products that bring higher profits and better sales. So last but not least, my shop's worry-free sales service further ensures customer satisfaction and helps them save time for them. So, so anybody can start an online e-commerce business with my shop, and currently we are offering a 6-month free trial to all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And let's back to South Africa. Pindela, I know you use financial service to help women. So could you please introduce how you promote financial inclusions over there?
Okay. Thank you, Sam. Maybe I will just start speaking from a BRICS Women Business Alliance perspective. The Alliance is centered on promoting and advancing women entrepreneurs to be globally competitive and regionally engaged in economic value chains, which unlock value for growth and sustainability. We are doing this through strengthening and creating women entrepreneurial capacity, and global competitiveness so that they can participate in the global market. We have also taken a decision to create a women empowerment funding scheme, which will allow us to deal with the financial inclusion aspect of the economy, and which is one of the biggest challenges actually that women face in trying to start businesses, whether micro or macro. Financing is always a big issue. On the side of the nonprofit that I run, we have been providing financial inclusion services for the past 25 years. And our model is based on a enabling credit through the use of a credit guarantee. We have over years adapted to use other forms of financing, and we have over years realized that without providing entrepreneurial upskilling and skill support for women, we will not create sustainable businesses. So our work then becomes more on ensuring that we build up the skills of the women, we build up access to markets so that they are able to create sustainable businesses. We have over the years also created linkages with businesses and organizations that are like-minded, that aim at developing women-owned businesses. And this could include development finance institutions. There are corporates that actually are actively working on including women in the economy and in their own supply chains. So we work with those businesses to ensure that women are also included and are developed to be partners of note for all the businesses. Thank you, Sam.
And thank you. And Wendy, what technologies your company has engaged in helping women, please?
Our company is the first and the biggest installment e-commerce platform in Thailand. We have developed 2 sets of systems to help them get through these difficulties. One is cash reward. The other is cashback. Actually, over 65% of our users are female. So we have more in-depth research on female user behavior. For example, Thai women are more likely to share themselves or meet new friends on social media than men. So we developed the system according to this preference. Let me go further into these 2 systems. Cash reward is a tool to obtain new users. If you recommend your friends to download and use our application, you will get a commission once your friends register successfully. Cashback is another tool. When you share your purchase links on any social media, including Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, if your friends see the link and click the link to buy something, you can get commission too. Whether you are a seller with retail experience or just our ordinary female users, as long as you like to post on social media, you can obtain a certain income through cash reward and the cashback system, and even develop into a stable career. Sam?
Thank you. And I believe Thailand people must be very happy with your cashback and cash rewards. And it seems that I will join again. And so go back to Betty. Could you please share any case stories that women benefit from your technologies? Because I think currently many women are struggling with their business and they are looking for solutions to help them.
Yes, absolutely. So with little to no capital investment requirements and hassle-free service, the MyShop actually has emerged as most ideal platform for doing dropshipping business, which is fabulous entrepreneurial choice for mothers staying at home or business women who want a side hustle or anybody who wants to increase their income. So like there's this girl from Texas, America, called Maela. So Maela is a Zumba teacher, and she likes sharing her daily life and everything about Zumba on Facebook. And she also has a lot of followers there. So because of the COVID, she's unable to teach Zumba anymore and just has to sit at home. So suddenly got sharply dropped, and it just comes to her that maybe it's time for her to thinking about some side hustle. So Maela decides to do dropshipping business, and she finally chooses my shop to start her business. So building up her store, connecting it to Facebook, selecting Zumba related products, all this just takes within one day, and she just begins to win customers from among her followers and make money already, even without seeing the products herself. So my shop takes care of everything for her, from products, quality inspection, packaging, logistics, and after sales. So all products are just shipped from American warehouses, and so her customers will get the products very soon. So since being with my shop from September, Mael actually has gained considerable and stable income each month. And we bet she's gonna gain way more in this holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's go to the common questions for all of you. So what recommendations can you give to other women? Pindela, could you please start first?
Thank you, Sam. My suggestions would be that the world is driven by e-commerce. So businesses need to join the digital economy, and because it is the new normal, women need to upskill, reinvent, and take up their share in the new normal. Women need to adopt a woman-to-woman business support. This strategy is the only strategy that will make us successful as women. Within the majority of the population in the world, it is important for us to work together for us to be successful. And lastly, it is important for women to align themselves to business forums, chambers, and other related organizations in order for them to be able to access opportunities and information, and then they can be able to take advantage of new opportunities that are presented. Thank you.
Thank you. And Wendy, what's your recommendation?
First of all, if you have a job in any case under this situation, do not give up your job. Maintaining economic independence is essential. So far as I know, working is the best way for us to gain social connections and social support. Secondly, if you are looking for a job, it is recommended to consider e-commerce. There will be a large number of positions suitable for us in this industry. Women are good at communication and have the advantages of being cared for and efficient. E-commerce positions such as operation, marketing, merchandising, customer service, and so on need these characteristics. No matter in JD.com or this shop, the two companies I worked before, most of my colleagues around me are women, and many of them have reached the senior management level. Thirdly, if you wanted to start your own business, e-commerce is a good choice. On the one hand, it is quite flexible in terms of time. Whether you are a college student or a full-time mother, it takes 2 or 3 hours a day to take care of an online store. A lot of Chinese sellers, in fact, they are full-time mothers who open shops in Shopee or Lazada, the top 2 e-commerce platforms in Southeast Asia. successfully support themselves. On the other hand, if you open a store on the e-commerce platform or just on social media like Facebook or Instagram to sell goods, very little money is needed in the early stage because no inventory cost, no rent. If you can, join the e-commerce platform, which is almost a zero-cost entrepreneurship. Finally, I hope we can make friends and support each other go through this crisis together. I wish everyone happy and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's go to Betty. What's your recommendation?
Okay, well, here are my suggestions. Number one is just don't fear it. So learn new things is not always very easy for us. And it is normal for us to have difficulties, frustration, and struggles during the process. So when we believe we can make it, we will make it. And just don't ever give up. We will figure out the way. My suggestion number two is check the tutorial. So basically, almost all the technology companies, they will have detailed instructions on how to use their products, be it an article, animation, or a short video. So just follow them step by step and you will get there normally. But if you just get stuck at some points for quite a long time, just remember, don't be frustrated, don't fear it. And here comes my suggestion number three, ask for help. So maybe you have already spent 1 hour solving your problem, but just coming to someone that might help you know it in just 1 minute. Technology companies always provide good support to customers. As in my shop, we have 7/24 support in 3 ways: live chat, phone call, and email support, making sure our customers will get the best user experience. So, and of course, ask your colleagues or somebody in your industry who might have the user experience is also a good way. So these are my suggestions. Don't fear it, check the tutorial, and ask for help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pindley, Wendy, and Betty from Asia and Africa. So let's go to the final one, hear her story, how she uses technology to make a change. We have Bonnie Chiu, Managing Director at a social investment consultancy in the UK, Gabriella Plano-Havik, Global Talent and Development Director from Aramex in Dubai, Micah Steinleckbach, General Manager at Visa Hong Kong and Macau in Hong Kong. So let's start the first questions with Bonnie. I know you are one of the Forbes 30 under 30 social entrepreneur. Could you please introduce how you use technology to make a change for women?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for inviting me. Very happy to be here and to hear all the very inspiring women who've gone before us about how they're really lifting women's role in society and in entrepreneurship. In terms of technology, how I use technology to make a change, I think, first of all, it's important to recognize that actually there is a digital gender gap in society. I was quite shocked to find out that 200 million fewer women than men own mobile phones. And in a lot of countries, there are still prohibited gender norms that prevent women in participating in technology fully. But that being said, technology has huge potential to empower women and girls. So what I have personally done was I set up an organization called Lensational that trains women and girls photography and digital storytelling. And I use the tool of photography, digital photography, for a few reasons. One, it overcomes language barriers. I was inspired by my grandmother who raised me, and I'm from Hong Kong, and she was born in Indonesia but grew up in Hong Kong. And even though she's illiterate, she can't read and write, she was able to use photography to express herself. And what's really powerful in the digital world that we live in is that even though I'm now in the UK, I'm still able to see the pictures that she's taking, and I'm able to connect with her digitally. And I thought there would be a lot of power not only to have women like herself who can't read and write or who face societal barriers in having their voices and stories heard. We can also exchange all these narratives and perspectives online so that we as a collective, as humanity, get to know each other more. So that's how I'm trying to use technology to make change, empower women, and to have their voices heard.
Thank you, Bonnie. It's very inspiring. And let's go to Micah. We heard of Visa She's Next campaign. Could you please introduce how this project helps women make a change?
Hi, Sam. Thank you so much for having me today. So yeah, She's Next is a program that we launched originally on International Women's Day in March 2020 in Hong Kong. It's actually the first time we launched the program in Asia Pacific. We've been running the program now for a few years in Asia and in America and in Africa. But this is the first time we wanted to bring it to Asia, firstly to Hong Kong, because it is such a fantastic entrepreneurial market, but also has a very high participation of females. And the program aims to actually bring together female founders and female-led businesses to have them benefit from education, research, networking, but also inspiration. So being together, connecting and sharing their experiencing and learning from each other. So what we've done so far, and obviously through the pandemic, we'd had to change a little bit of our program, but we were very lucky to organize one kind of face-to-face workshop where we had several founders in a room share their experiences around funding and around the use of technology, because as Bonnie mentioned, I think technology is really super important in today's day and age. And it looks like not all women are as technologically savvy. So the ability to learn more digital skills from each other has been very useful. And also during Start Me Up Week here in Hong Kong, we facilitated a few workshops, particularly around digital transformation and e-commerce. So yeah, that's what She's Next is about, Sam.
Great. I hope this program can be promoted in the whole world. And let's go to Dubai. Gabriella, share with us how your company uses technology to make a change for women.
Well, as you might imagine, being in the transportation and logistics business, technology is a very big part of how we operate. And I would say the big changes technology have brought in are on three fronts. How we interface with our customers, how we work collaboratively internally with our colleagues, and how we look at our processes. So if we look at the changes, especially that COVID brought along, we saw a huge shift into the e-commerce space, which is not surprising. And over here, technology has really enabled us a lot in terms of connecting with our customers, listening into what do they need, what do they want, so that we could be able to look back and think about what are the platforms that are going to enable them to interact quite easily and effectively, both with ourselves and with our partners. And having over 37 million customers that we interface with, a lot of them being women, that is really important for us. Not only that, we also looked at how do we enable the whole delivery process, and technology has really enabled us to develop elements like contactless deliveries, contactless payments, also a new offering that we have, which is Aramex Smart, where people can purchase goods and then the fair payment by about a couple of weeks. So those are all elements that are really supporting women who are managing a lot of the purchases in the household. The next thing was with our employees. And if we look at our office-based employees, particularly in our head offices, we have a head office both in Dubai and another one in Jordan, we've got around a 50-50 split between males and females. And with technology, we managed to be able to allow people much more flexibility, particularly during the COVID period, to be able to work remotely while still being fully effective at work, so being able to still hold meetings, conference calls, interact and collaborate with each other, while still being in the comfort of their home, where they were safer, where potentially they had to care for other members of the family, with children having remote schooling. That really supported our women a lot. And then the third front is more the technology enabling the way we do our business, whether that is in data mining so that we can look for faster and better routes to be able to get you our packaging, the parcels to you, or whether it is looking at ways to automate certain processes which are more transactional, so that even in the situation where, because of social distancing, we were obliged to work through shift systems, so there was still the same volume of work, if not more, but less people on the ground, but yet we were still able to manage the business continuity and deliver to the high level our customers are used to receiving from us.
Thank you so much. And Bonnie, you just mentioned that some projects like the photography campaign, as well as others. I'm curious to understand what's the latest results of your projects that other women can learn from, especially in this crisis.
Great, and it's so good to hear from Gabriella and Mikey in terms of the activities that you are supporting female entrepreneurs. And I think, Gabriella, just small things you said about providing them with data packages. I mean, that's actually a challenge. We see a lot of our students, especially those in emerging markets, who face this challenge in being able to access internet and be able to upload their photographs so that we can sell on their behalf. But back to Sam, your question in terms of the results we've had so far. We started Lensational on International Women's Day. It's a great day. Micah, you said Visa's campaign also started on the International Women's Day. We started that in 2013, and we've grown our community really online. So, talking about technology, this is not only how we empower the women in our network, but it's also how we as an organization manage to grow. So we started the Facebook page, and then over the years, we were able to grow to launch programs in 23 countries in Asia and Africa. The core programs now are really focused on Hong Kong, where we're supporting domestic workers from Indonesia and the Philippines, supporting them with their emotional expression. You asked about COVID, Sam, and I think during COVID-19 and before, we heard from other panelists about mental health being a challenge. And we found that photography actually has therapeutic potential. You're able just to express yourself and to connect with other people through this medium of expression. So during COVID, we launched a photography campaign called Her COVID-19 Stories, where we were able to solicit contributions from our network all across the world in how COVID-19 has impacted them. There were some sad stories, but there were also some inspiring and uplifting stories. So our core programs are in Hong Kong, as I said, and what's really interesting is we see some of the domestic workers, they learn with us in Hong Kong, and then they go back to Indonesia and the Philippines, and then they launch businesses back in their countries. And we are also working quite actively in Kenya and Ghana. I think my Kenyan colleague might have dialed in as well. And in Kenya, the focus has been around women and girls living in urban slums of Nairobi, but also working in more rural areas with indigenous women, and really focusing on the topic of environment and environmental sustainability. And so this might be throwing another global challenge we have to face, but around climate change. And we are using the power of photography and storytelling to support these women who are creating change at the front lines of climate action, and to really elevate their voices on that global level.
Thank you so much. And I believe your project is quite helpful for those women who are suffering from this crisis. And let's go to Micah. In this crisis, what initiative have Visa introduced to empower women?
Yeah, so I love the examples that Bonnie and Gabriella already gave. And I think it is really very encouraging to see how the empowerment of women is on everybody's mind during COVID. I think at Visa, what we have seen is that really the category that has suffered the most, as Bonnie already alluded to, are obviously the small and medium-sized enterprises. And whether they're male or female doesn't really matter. I mean, they're all going through very troubled times. So what we've been trying to do across Asia Pacific is to support 10 million small, medium-sized enterprises to invigorate their business. And we believe actually that these SMEs are kind of the oil of the economy, and they are core to this economic recovery that we're going through. But what we've also noticed is obviously there's a lot of concerns around cash flow and revenue generation, but actually having an online presence, as Gabriella mentioned, with so many people now being indoors and having their shopping done online, but also no tourists being able to travel. It is really important for these small and medium-sized enterprises that they actually have a technological footprint. So we've been helping them with digital starter kits. So for small and medium-sized enterprises that wanted to go online, we gave them a ready-made kit to say, well, these are kind of offers for ads that you can try for free. And we work with partners to give them that online presence, but also companies already that had either the e-commerce starter pack if they didn't have a presence, but if they're already online and they really wanted to become more sophisticated in reaching their customers, we actually supported them with a digital transformation toolkit. And that's been proven to be quite useful to support them. But on the other hand, we've done a lot more generic across Asia Pacific supporting campaigns that are called Support Small. So we really think that now this is a great opportunity to support small and medium-sized enterprises, both offline and online. And obviously we see that a lot across Asia Pacific, a lot of these enterprises are actually run by women. And very specifically for China, we are actually launching a new campaign in the run-up of Beijing 2020. So we have launched a program which is called the Beijing Olympic 2020 Women's Program. So we're trying to see what kind of opportunities the Beijing Olympics will actually bring to women entrepreneurs in Beijing and the specific regions so that they can really benefit, hopefully, from this economic boost that is coming their way. And again, we are trying to do this with providing our internal capabilities or skills around getting better digital penetration and a footprint. And finally, in China, we've also been working with Shanghai Fashion Week, where we've been trying to emphasize that where you shop matters and shop local and support your local entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurs in particular.
Wow, thank you so much. And so let's go to the common questions for all of you. So what recommendations can you give to other women? Gabriella, can you please start first?
I would potentially put it on a couple of different pillars. And I would say start with what you are passionate about, you know, what makes you wake up in the morning and want to live for. So I think understanding what it is you're passionate about and then understand how you can leverage that even further is probably one of the really important starting points. The next one, I would say, in today's world, it's more about who you know than what you know. That is important. So go out there, network, you know, build those connections, whether it is to gain further knowledge, whether it is to open access for what it is you're trying to achieve, whether it's about collaboration, and learn, you know, who are potentially those other people that you can connect with, collaborate together to be more successful together. So I would really say that is probably the second important one in terms of really enabling each other. The third one is when we look at today's world, things in the external environment are changing at such a high speed that we need to keep up to date. You know, we really need to keep up to speed with what is going on. And for that to happen, we need to continuously remind ourselves to really cultivate that growth mindset, you know. Be comfortable leaving your comfort zone. Be comfortable to stretch, to try new things, you know, and take everything as a learning opportunity, you know. Even in failure, there's something new that you've learned. So look at things from that perspective and be adventurous, be courageous.
Thank you so much. And Bonnie, what's your recommendations, particularly to the young girls?
Thank you, Sam. I want to pick up on that point Gabriella just said about failure. So I just want to share a statistic. It's based on entrepreneurship in the UK, but I think would be something similar globally as well. There was a research done last year where they found 60% of women who have considered starting a business did not do so because they thought they would fail. So I think failure, being able to embrace failure, would really unlock the potential for women's entrepreneurship, and especially for women, because women's sense of risk appetite might be different. How we are socialized to embrace risks, I think has been different to how men would embrace risks. So I think being able to have that courage, as Gabriella mentioned, to really embrace failure, I think that would be my first tip. I think secondly, it's actually something that came quite late in my life. I spent the first 18 years of my life not really thinking about gender, because it's just not something that I kind of was aware of, or I didn't feel necessarily that gender held me back. I'm the only child in my family. I went to an all-girls school. But I think once I noticed the gender inequality in our society, I became very passionate about this topic, because I believe that for women who have been able to be educated, I remember a panelist said this earlier, that she actually feels very privileged to have a good education. And so therefore, with great privilege comes great responsibility. So I think all of us need to recognize that actually we are very lucky to be, just being able to access technology, and what can we do for other sisters across the world who don't have that access, and really champion that cause wherever we go. So I think, I guess the main message is let's all of us really support women and girls. And this is the final recommendation, is not just a recommendation for young girls, but also for I guess men and boys to really be the he for she. I think, Sam, when you said earlier, you want to buy from women, when the other panelists talked about supplier diversity, that's really great, because women cannot achieve equality without the contribution of men and boys in joining this journey together. So I will end there and hear from Micah.
Okay, thank you so much. But let's forget failure. Let's cheer for success. So, Micah, what's your recommendation to make a success for other women?
Yeah, it's very interesting already what Gabriella and Bonnie mentioned, but I just want to follow through a little bit around what Bonnie said. I think what is very important in this day and age is that actually women and girls are nice to women and girls. I think in society and in today's television and drama, there is a lot of focus on female rivalry and women kind of fighting with each other over a guy or over something. And I think actually if women could start by being just nice to each other, you never know what kind of problems she's going through. I think that would be already much more helpful. And particularly girls in school or as you go through your career, it's just really important that we all support each other. That's number one. Number two for me would be that if you really, if we look at the experience that we had from the She's Next program, it was very clear that women benefited very much from hearing experiences from other women, other founders, other entrepreneurs. So as Gabriella said, find yourself a network that you can be part of so that you can actually learn from other female entrepreneurs, but also create your own kind of sounding board or your own board of directors and find a few people in your environment that you trust, that you think can help you on your journey and that you can go to for advice. And obviously a lot of people have a mentor or somebody to support them, but there's nothing wrong with creating your own board table, which could consist of your parents, your best friends, but also reach out to people that you think are in similar industries and say, hey, can you be part of my board and can I use you as a sounding board? Because I think nobody does this alone. And it's really important that you feel that there is help out there as you go on your entrepreneurial journey.
Well, thank you, Bonnie, Gabriella, and Micah. And thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for joining today's event. I hope your insights can empower all our audience who are at a crossroads to get through this crisis together. Thanks our audience for coming as well to plan a change for today. I wish you a good day and good health, and goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.